To use FACTum Studio, we need the OBJ Designer Eclipse package, and we can download it from their website. After downloading it, we can follow the instructions in the FACTum Studio's repository, the installation instructions. And for that, we need two important files, the meta model project and the runtime application as well, which we can find from the release documents, where they are found here. And following the instruction, we can easily have the OBJ Designer Community Edition for FACTum Studio already set up in our computer, and then we can open from the directory where it's located and start using it. So if we open first, we can find two things in the project, mainly the grammar and the equal meta model, which the equal meta model is generated from the grammar. And then if we configure it correctly, then we can also open the runtime application, and we should be able to start using it to specify architectural patterns. So in this example, we will use a publish subscriber pattern. And as you can see here, we have the graphical UI for the tool, where we have palettes that we can use for the architectural diagram description. And we have also a textual model or a textual language of the pattern model. And here we can specify in a comprehensive way all the components of a pattern specification. In this case, for example, we have data type specification, component type specification, and constraints and guarantees. So to start it easily, so we can see, we can take similar example here. We can put a component here, component type, similar component types here. I can resize them, by the way, and then I can rename the first component, for example, sub, and I can do the same with the second one. Similar to this one, just to show you, I can also put an output, for example, port here, which I can rename also. So for example, ISO here, and I can put also an input port here, and in a similar fashion I can rename it and adjust the naming also. Then I can also set the data type for the input port, for example. Even in this case, when I specify the data type here, it should be able to appear here. So I can choose the data types I already have specified, for example, the event and then sort here. Then I have a data type specified for the input port. Similarly, I can set up a connection where I go from the output port to the input port, and automatically I have the connection already described also from the output port. I connect to the input port PI. This is how the diagram, the graphical description works, and it gets reflected automatically when it's saved or synchronized. So for now, I don't need this one because I already have it here, and I can see in the textual description I have additional features that I can specify. For example, the constraints here are the publisher and the subscriber, and I have short names here, which I can also do in the diagram. And you can see also all the other things like the port, the input port and its data type, the output port and its data type. Similarly here also the other additional thing, the connection. In terms of data type, I have the event and I have the subscription. For the event I have 3 sorts, and for the subscription I have 2 sorts. And for both data types I have 2 functions, operation EVT, operation sub, and here I have 2 other functions. may take two inputs and output one sort. If we see the constraints, it usually have a component variable where, for example, this one is rigid and this one is flexible. Both of them are publishers associated to the publisher component type. And I have also a data type variable, similar way. It's rigid and it's associated to the event data type. And I have also additional important part, which is the assertions or the constraints assertions. And this one is, the first one is named act PB, and it sets the constraint that a publisher component is always activated and unique. It's a temporal formula, so similar fashion also I have another constraint here. In this formula also I set the constraint that a subscriber component is connected to unique publisher component, and whenever the latter sends out a message for which the subscriber is subscribed, it remains unique. Yeah. So additionally, I have a guarantee. I have similar part for the assertion for the specification of the assertion, which is two component variables and a data type variable similar to this one. And here the guarantee is to ensure the subscriber always receives the message where it's subscribed. And here is the temporal formula, or the formula for that. So the most important part here for verification is the guarantee, which we named here the delivery. And if we generate this code, it automatically is generated here when the textual description is valid, then we can see we have an Isabel query already generated. And here we can also see the theorem delivery is also generated here. And if we go to Isabel, for example, we can see which part is generated by the tool and which part is also generated by or like has to be provided by the user, or which part of the proof has to be sketched by the user. So we can go here and see in Isabel, so all these ones are generated by the FACTum Studio, and we here have also, you can see here that the user has to sketch a proof for the delivery to verify its validity. Other than that, in the tool we have, in the textual UI, we have additional features to support the user in terms of validation and constraint checks. For example, here in the data type specification, we have 3 sorts for the event, and here we have an operation which takes MSG sort and outputs AVT sort. Here, for example, if I put another sort which doesn't exist here, it doesn't allow me, but on the other hand, it gives me also a suggestion which I can use from the existing sorts. Or I can also use control space to see which types of sorts exist, or like the scope of the sorts existing in this pattern specification, and I can use one of them from the available suggestions. Similarly, I have here, for example, a component variable P, which is associated to publisher, which I can access also all the elements within the publisher, for example, the PSP and PNT. But if a user makes a mistake and its validity is checked, and then the user is less likely to make a mistake, rather I can check the scope of the scope of this component variable and see that 2 ports from publisher are available, and I can make use of them. An additional constraint check, for example, one of the additional ones is that we have here, for example, a subscription operation which takes 2 inputs and outputs 1, and here I have two operands as well, but if I add another operand it should give me a mistake, which may also give me a suggestion. Yeah, 2 is expected, not 3. Then I can make adjustments. This is additional feature in the tool to support the user in validation and constraint checks. That's it. Thank you so much.